I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's go.
All right, we're live. Hey guys, welcome to Permaculture Smackdown. I am your co-host, Josiah Wallingford.
And that's Paul Wheaton. I'm Paul Wheaton. Yeah. Was I supposed to talk then? Was that up to me?
I don't know. I just queued you up for it and saw if you bite.
Empty spot. Fill the blank space with something here. All right.
Hey guys, you can find all the previous episodes on tv.permethos.com, and you can subscribe to the podcast and get it on your iTunes stuff and your Google Play stuff and all that if you want to watch or listen later. Paul, dude, you shared this video with me. Oh, before I get into that, so yesterday on the show, Paul shared a video, which was hilarious, about vegetarians. And once I posted the episode to YouTube, I got one of them like, hey, man, that's copyrighted, man. And so I disputed it and said, we are commentating on this, and it's educational piece, and it's fair use. And so then they said, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay. It was obviously automated because, like, as soon as I uploaded it, I got a thing saying, hey, copyright violation. And so they were all fine with it. Anyway, so yesterday you shared
some stuff about fair use on YouTube. There's a thing that is wrapping up, I think, in the next week or two. It's been going on for like a year and a half with H3 Productions on YouTube, and they made a video where they talked about. I mean, this is what they do: is they talk about other YouTube channels and they give commentary. And so then here's a video of this guy, and he's kind of, it's like, eh. And so they're making commentary about the video, and they probably included half the video that they were commenting on in their video as they broke it down every 5-10 seconds.
Sure.
And they're like, okay, what's he doing now? It's like, did you just see that? And so they made, and so the dude who made the video sued them, and then their response was fair use. Mm-hmm. And it's been a 1.5 year long court battle. At one point in time, the H3 people showed an invoice showing that for just 1 month, like $50,000 in lawyer bills, just 1 month.
Jeez.
Yeah, and but it sounds like it's going to wrap up in H3's favor. But
that's still a lot of money and time and energy down the drain that could have been used for much more productive things.
Yeah. So I guess the best part of this story that you're telling right now is that I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
My favorite part.
Yep. That's one of the reasons I have a problem with intellectual property rights, which is getting on the political side, so I guess we don't have to go into that. But yeah, I don't like IP very much, but I understand. Okay, so yesterday you shared an awesome video with me, which I'm not going to play because I didn't get permission from them. So I'm sure I could get away with it, but what I will do is share my screen and show where everybody can watch it. And what it is this awesome group. It's basically a permaculture music group, and they do music videos. They're called Formidable Vegetable Sound System.
Right on.
You can check them out on Grow Do It is their YouTube channel, or I think it is. That's where all the videos are that I could find. And actually they have, if we go to their channel here, and you go to playlists, you'll see Formidable Vegetable Sound System official music videos. So I'm guessing this is official.
Sounds official, doesn't it?
Yeah. They got 7 music videos on there. I encourage you to check them out. I really enjoyed their music videos. They're hilarious and fun music.
So this is the music that's in our new 4-DVD set. And their music is amazing. So we worked a deal with them to be able to use their music.
Well, cool. I haven't.
And these are permaculture songs. I don't know what your taste in music is, but
this is right up my alley.
Enjoy this music.
Yeah, this is right up my alley. Like, I go to the blues festival. There's a blues festival in Washington. I go twice. It's twice a year, and I go every time. And I love it. It's so much fun. But it's right at the alley of this kind of music.
I don't know what to call this kind of music. What would you? I mean, this is not blues.
No, it's not blues. But if you go to a blues concert nowadays, a lot of blues, bands or that are at those concerts, bands that are at those kind of blues concerts, a lot of them sound kind of like this. So I guess you call it. It's not though. It's like bluegrassy. It's there's flute and there's all kinds of instruments, and it's just
vaudevillian. What about vaudevillian?
You know what? It's permaculture rock, man. I don't know.
It's folky. It's all I know is that, man, this is fun. It's fun music.
It is. It'll put you in a good mood.
Yeah. It's nutty. It's crazy. I really, really enjoy it. I feel like these guys are doing a great service for permaculture, you know?
Yeah, one of my
messages and wonderful songs.
Let's see, Yield. Yield is my favorite video. I think that's the one you actually shared with me. It's just funny to watch. The lyrics are funny. It's just good. It's just good stuff. Watch it. And
so you're talking about copyright issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also going to be an area that's going to be like it's referred to as they don't give a shit. So yeah. We included, I think, probably most of the video of that guy where he was talking about getting permaculture systems to work. And so we did that a couple of shows ago. And I think it was an incredible video. And so, yeah, we kind of went like moment by moment.
Well, that's why the Fair Use Act is there, is for that exact kind of thing.
True. But then it's kind of like for fair use, it's like, you can't just play the whole thing. And we didn't. But it's like we used so much of it, though, that it's possible. And it's like, and I know a lot about copyright law, but it's possible that we went over the line. And however, what we did do is we said, his video is awesome, and go see it. Go watch the whole thing without us, screwing it all up and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's obvious we're not just like playing it to rip it off.
So there's a very good chance that this guy is going to be of the camp of don't give a shit. He's going to be like, no, this is fine. It's like, and so I know that like I do a lot of podcasts where we're doing like a chapter by chapter book review. So we'll do a whole podcast on 10 pages of Gaia's Garden.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, so we listened to these 10 pages, we took a lot of notes, and now for the entire hour and a half, we're going to talk about these 10 pages out of Gaia's Garden. And then what I generally do is I kind of feel like to fall within fair use, then because I'll read sections of the book. I'll read sections of those 10 pages. I don't read more than 10%. But there's no law anywhere that says, oh, yeah, 10%. But on the other hand, I do emphasize, like, now if I was reading a book and I was like, this book is shit, it's so bad, it's so awful, I think that I would not quote very much of the book. So that way they wouldn't try to, sue me and claim it's not fair use because I read too much of it.
Well, also you wouldn't read very much of it because it would be shitty. Like, if you think it's shitty, you're probably not going to want to
reading a certain amount to say C isn't, just so you can tell how shitty it is.
Yeah. I don't think he would care, and not only that, I'm talking about the video. Not only would he not care about us using it, I don't want to say wouldn't care. I think he would care because he's going to get more viewers for it. And especially since we put it in my opinion, in a high light, because I loved that video. I thought it was a great video.
It was really good.
And that's the whole purpose of us reviewing it. So, and I actually did get a couple of emails or messages of people going, "Why are you poo-pooing him? He's just doing, he's doing good stuff." And I was like, "What? How did you get poo-pooing out of that?"
I don't think we poo-pooed him. We said he's fucking awesome.
Yeah. So anyway. Let's see. I'm going to open up the chat. We got some chat stuff going on.
Well, yeah, it's Brian. He's just saying the same thing you just said.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Brian. Brian's awesome. Brian shows up for a lot of stuff we do. All right. Let's see here. So, yeah, go check out Formidable Vegetable Sound System. They are awesomeness. And I'm going to go ahead and close that stuff out.
I've got an email from them today, and I haven't opened it yet because my email river runs so strong. We don't get to all of it, but
just open it without reading it and share it with everybody.
Yeah, right. I do know that I've been talking to him fairly recently about him possibly coming to the PDC.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And so from Australia, so it's kind of like that'll be cool.
Heck yeah!
But it's still being discussed. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
And speaking of the PDC, there's only like one ticket left or something, right? And that's after you expand.
Right now, there are 2 tickets left to the PDC and 2 tickets left to the ATC. And there are 2 work trade tickets left. And I'm kind of thinking like, yeah, okay, maybe those are going to not happen. Now, I don't know if we've talked about work trade stuff here before.
We did a little bit, yeah.
Okay. So
But sum it up for everybody in case they haven't seen it.
We got 2 guys here now that are doing work trade for the PDC and the ATC, but the time to do both of the events has already passed. But for other people, it's like they would do work trade things, and it's like I would go to the PDC, and then somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't have to pay all the money that you paid because I'm doing work trade," and then it's kind of like they're getting paid $20 an hour to sit on their ass.
Well, that's when you hear that, you say, "Hey, I need you to do some work," and then tear them away from the from the PDC. Well, I guess you can't do that because of the agreement, right?
Well, so what we do for work trade is that, of course, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done before the PDC happens, and so it's kind of like, all right, come on out, and then do that work, and then attend the PDC.
Yeah.
As opposed to these guys where it's like, okay, we've worked out a work trade, and so instead of spending $1,500 on a PDC ticket, then this guy is going to work approximately 20 hours during the PDC, and it's kind of like, okay, so I've got a little calculator thing up here, and so 1,500 divided by 20. That's $75 an hour, man.
It's good money.
And they kind of just sit around and phone it in. Yeah. And they don't even work all the time that they're supposed to work.
But you've worked that out, right? Where they come early now before the PDC, get all the work done, and then enjoy the PDC.
So for me, they come and they do a lot of work. Now, I think that I like to think that a lot of the work that you're going to be doing is going to be a lot of natural building and homesteading stuff. Pretty permaculture, funky, cool stuff, that you do before the PDC starts and the ATC.
And I actually think that would give you a better learning experience because you're doing the actions, and then you get to see the learning experience and tie those back to things you've already done.
I think so too. I think it's a great way to go. So we've got two tickets left for that. And that's just for the PDC. And I think we got one for the ATC. And so a person could show up a little bit later and do the ATC. And then there is somebody who said that they were coming just for the ATC, but someone was saying to me, like, they might not be coming, I'm not sure. And so we might have 2 openings for the ATC.
And now there's going to be like a cutoff limit on when they can be part of the work group, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure the exact dates, but I know it's like sometime in April. It's like
it's coming up.
I'd have to go look it up, but then we've got it set up out at at a Permies on the thread about the PDC and the ATC at Permies that spell it out. And so first, you do send $100, and then and that's been great because we've had a couple. We actually had all of the work trade spots filled, and people had sent in their $100, and then they flaked, and it's like, well, that was an easy $100.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
and so then, I mean, the like with the WOOF program, the flake out the flake out factor is so massive with WOOF that it's extremely frustrating if you're the farmer.
Yes, especially if you're not getting some kind of upfront capital.
Right. So if I got $100 and then they flake, I kind of don't. It's like doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. I got $100.
Yeah. Unless you're like relying and it's last minute, relying on that person to be there and it's last minute. It's it's nice to get the notice ahead of time, definitely as much as possible. If someone is going to flake, and I get it. I mean, things come up or whatever. With woofer, usually what the flaking is they're like, hey, found a different farm and went to that one or whatever.
Well, out of Mount Spokane, I had like 7 people coming, and I ordered a fuck ton of trees, and I thought with 7 people, we won't have a problem planting all these trees.
Yeah.
And then only one of them showed up, and so we ended up not getting all the trees put in. And so it was a waste of money. And you're saying like, oh, they went to some other farm. And it's like, my understanding is I've talked to a few different woofers, and what they do is that they will like send a notice saying that they want to like send an email, like make a canned message, and then they just copy and paste it.
To see whoever replies.
To like 30 different places, and then they kind of feel out like which one, and then they just tell them all that they're coming, and then at the last minute they pick which one they're really going to go to.
You'd think Woof, like Woof USA, these Woof websites would come up with a system to mitigate that, some kind of system.
I think the people that run Woof have other battles to deal with, and they're trying to deal with that shit.
Oh yeah, like what? What battles?
Well, it's like, okay, so you got somebody that's at your property, and that person pulled some weeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so did you pay them like minimum wage? Did you pay for their workers' comp?
Mm-hmm.
Did you did you fill out all the paperwork for an employee?
So,
did you verify that they've got like a social security card?
Yeah.
Did they fill out a W-4?
Now, why would Woof have anything to do with that? All they're doing is facilitating the engagement.
Well, of course, there are people that are unkind, and
I'm sure there's some kind of lobby group against him or something.
So, and then there's going to be like perhaps an agency like the IRS that's going to say like, you need to give us a list of all of your farms and all of your woofers, and we need to interview all of them. We need to find out where they went and how long they were there, and we need all this information so we can, start
punishing people.
and so it's like it's a messy thing. So there are some farmers where it's like they had woofers or volunteers, or I've heard of stories of places where there's like, oh, if you come down and you help us out for like 3 hours, we'll give you a CSA box.
Mm-hmm.
Packed full of food. You can even pick it yourself for free.
Yeah.
And then those places where they were doing that, it's like, oh no.
There's no trading. Did you report your trading?
You need to get a W-4 from them, and you need to set them up with workers' comp, and you need to make sure they have a social security card, and then and in the end you paid them in vegetables, and so you need to note the monetary value of that so everybody involved can be taxed.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we didn't have all these laws and people could just be smarter about the engagements they get into. If they didn't, I mean, the whole point of or what's supposedly the point of all these laws is to protect people. Well, I am of the opinion it's time for people to start protecting themselves and like reading agreements before you go into things, understand what you're going into, research. So, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, and so all I'm saying is that WOOF USA, that's where a lot of their time is going to is trying to, because basically what they're doing is they're saying that no, you're a visitor. This is a visitor who happens to like, playing in the dirt, and it's kind of like, really, has our world come to this where we've got to, play this game? And I kind of feel like it's like that whole thing about like, why are you focusing on these organic farms in the WOOF program? I think you're going to get a lot more money if you look at all these huge corporations that sell petroleum, say.
Yeah, but those
and they don't pay any taxes.
The problem is those huge corporations have lobbyists and can fight court battles and can afford to drag things on, where the organic farmers, we're just barely making it by, man.
There you go. I think that's it. That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh no, we want easy victims. We want people where we put a gun to their forehead and they say, hey, I'll give you the money, okay? I don't want any trouble. I'll just give you the money.
Yeah.
And then if they put a gun to the forehead of a big corporation, then that's like death.
They get a gun pointed back at them.
Yeah, there's guns pointing back at the IRS agent, and they're like, I'm putting away my gun now. I've decided to go to the movies.
Yeah, or there's other people I could point this gun at. I'll go do that.
Yeah. yeah. So, so really, it's kind of like learning about the game of like, how do you do the things that you need to do, and it's not being illegal. It's how to, because basically what happened there? Did the big company actually violate a law? No, they're navigating the laws.
Yeah.
And so part of navigating is to have lobbyists who will change the laws so it's more convenient to you, or lobbyists that will convince regulators to look the other way, not necessarily by bribes, but by keeping them occupied by other people. Like, go chase those woofers. Hey, how about that?
Well, I think what happens is a lot of these lobby groups, okay, so they're lobbyists for these big corporations. The corporations come up with, okay, we want to hurt our industry, but exclude us from the pain. So we'll come up with a business plan that will make it so that we're going to go this direction, and then we'll hire these lobbyists to make it illegal to do what we're doing unless you're going in this direction we've already planned out. And so then they can go that direction, still do what they're doing, and it's illegal to do it in any other way.
All right. So what are the permaculture things you'd like to talk about today?
This is permaculture stuff. Okay. So, well, first of all, quick break. You guys can go to tv.permethos.com. You'll see the show notes for each episode. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/permethos, or if you're just on tv.permethos.com, you'll see a link to it. From there, we really appreciate your subscriptions and help out the show. All right. Well, next topic. So we talked about the grow do it. That's what I had on the agenda. That was my big amazed new thing I found thanks to you, actually. Let's see. We talked about the PDC. What else is going on?
About the Formidable vegetable guys. I mean, we do have a thread about them, a huge thread about them out at Permies. But you can buy their album, and I bought their album, and I think that they're working on a second album now, and so that'd be kind of cool if people bought their album.
Yeah,
let me more of it.
Formidable vegetable sound. I want to see if they have. Do they have like a website, their own website where you can buy their? Okay, here it is. I'm going to share it here. Share my screen. All right. So here is their website. Boy, it'd be smart if I went here to find the YouTube channel just to make sure it's the right YouTube channel. Okay, so cool looking website. Man, I love their the graphics. And this is like in the music video, they have these graphics going on. It's pretty cool. They put a lot in the music video, it's obvious, or at least the one I watched.
Somebody did a great job making these videos.
Yeah. So, okay, I want to buy it. Listen, buy, right under music. There we go. Got a tribute to Bill Mollison. Good for them. Grow Do It album. So, oh, they got it like a Kickstarter where you got multiple platforms going on here. Okay, so there's 11 songs on the album. Cool. Because there's only 7 songs on their YouTube channel on their for music videos. That's cool. I really like these guys.
This is their new one. I haven't even listened to the new one.
Oh, you better go buy it.
I bought the old one.
So I should get in contact with them. So maybe next week we can actually play one of their videos for everybody, or some of the music, or use it in like the end of the show. Well,
one of the problems, I mean, when they're talking about coming over for a U.S. tour, then a big part of what they're saying is like, okay, we need gigs so we can afford to fly everybody over from Australia. And
not just one gig.
And so they're contacting me, can we come and do a gig at your place during your PC? And I said, how much does it cost? How do you do it? What's involved? And they never replied to that, or they haven't replied to it yet. Maybe they replied this morning and I haven't read it yet.
Well, yeah, you just got an email from them, right? Well, yeah. They're in Australia time.
Right. So
they're time traveling.
So, therefore, if other people that are like watching this, like know about how to book a band for things, then contact them and help make it happen. Because it's all new to me. I've never booked a band for anything before. And so it's suddenly there's this whole other job of like booking a band. And,
well, there's 2 huge areas near you that would be great for booking them. That's Whitefish, Montana, where I live, because there's a huge bar scene here. They do lots of live music. And Missoula, where you're at, there's a ton of bars there and a lot of live music and like-minded people. And yeah.
I don't know how that works. Since I'm not a drinker guy, then I don't go to bars. I don't know.
Well, I don't even think even if you are a drinker guy that goes to bars, I don't know that you would know how to book a band.
Yeah.
I imagine they have some kind of agent or producer or something that books all this stuff for them.
I don't.
Or would do that. Or you hire one temporarily in the States if you're from somewhere else. I don't know. Hey, if someone knows, get a hold of them and let them know. All right, man. Let's see. Okay, so I have been going through the survival podcast, like tons of episodes, because there's so much I've been missing out on, like 2 years worth of stuff I got to catch up on. If you guys haven't heard of the survival podcast, you probably have, but if you haven't, definitely go check out the survival podcast. Jack's like on episode 1800 or something. He's getting really far up there.
Yeah.
A ton of episodes on a ton of different content.
I haven't listened to very many of Jack. I mean, I'm not a podcast consumer. I mean, most people I think that are podcast people, probably because they have a commute.
A commute, well, I listen in the background. Like I'll throw it up, just have it going on in the background while I'm working. I think a lot of people do that too. I think a lot of people watching this show do that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. 1970. Whew. 1,970 episodes.
Wow. Okay. Jeez. I'm amazed that people listen to my podcast. So I've got 350, something like that. And it's even when I put the very first podcast, I was kind of thinking like, there's no reason to do this because I can't imagine anybody listening to this. and then there was a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback, and people were really enjoying it. So we made more, and now we're at 350, and I don't know, people do listen to this stuff. So it's like, all right, fine, we'll make more.
All right. Well, so one of the things that has come from me like catching up is that I've gotten a lot of great ideas for shows, and one of those ideas was Jack did an episode on like the beginner's guide to growing food, and what came to my mind is I wonder what Paul's beginner's guide to growing food would be like. Just the person getting into it, just starting. So one thing that came to my mind was back in the 40s and 50s, there was a thing called victory gardens, which of course you know about. But it was the United States government saying, we need you guys to help us, and by helping yourselves, and to do that, we recommend a victory garden. So victory for the war, build a garden, kind of a thing. And they're really actually kind of cool gardens. And so the basic plan that they came up with was that you would have 2 garden beds and a chicken coop in the middle, or this was one of the ideas, and then with 2 doors. And so while one bed is going and growing, you're using the other bed for the chickens. So you open up that side. So the chickens would go into that garden bed, and they're scratching it up and pooping and all that stuff. And then next season, you would keep that door closed and open up the other door and let them into the old, or the previous year's garden bed, and let them scratch around in there and eat stuff up and get the worms going and poop everywhere while you're growing in the other one. So I thought that was a cool idea. And I wish people were still doing that kind of stuff, or I really wish the government, if we're going to have this government thing, would really encourage people to grow their own gardens and stop making laws that make it illegal to grow gardens. But anyway, what would your garden system be, Paul, for like just the kind of backyard, quarter acre kind of person?
Start off with hugelkultur. I mean, if you can add texture to the landscape, there's a long list of benefits. But one of them is that if you've only got a quarter of an acre, then wouldn't you like that to go from 0.25 acres to maybe 0.35 acres? And one way to do that is, rather than having it be flat, to add a lot of,
to raise it up,
grow more stuff. There's more, edge, more plantable surface area. So there's that, but it's like, and I recognize that not everybody's going to be bonkers about doing that, but it's like for the first year, maybe make one hugelkultur bed that's like hopefully 6 feet tall, but maybe it's only like 10 feet long. And then with each year, you build more, because as the branches and twigs and whatever else come down off of your trees and all this organic matter arrives each year, you can build more and more gardens using this technique. I thought that now of course, when it was 1993, I grew a garden that totally died, and then I became obsessed with growing a better garden, and I read 100 gardening books, and I've read 100 more, a couple hundred more since then. But there were a couple of books that I thought were like, if I'm going to, somebody's going to get started in gardening, just the very, very beginner stuff, I would say one of the books to read would be Mel Bartholomew's Square Foot Gardening. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there I totally disagree with, but I think that the book does an excellent job of helping people to get started. Now, it's possible that there's a newer book out that has everything I love about Mel Bartholomew's book, but it's more permaculture-ish. That's entirely plausible.
Well, he's got a second edition out now that I hadn't seen before. But I doubt it goes into the permaculture stuff.
Yeah, I suspect it doesn't. And he just recently died too. But the next book is that I would advocate taking a look at Ruth Stout's books. Now she's got a bunch of them, and so I'm not sure which one to recommend. But basically, she advocates something where it's going to be a heavy mulch kind of system. But unfortunately, today that gets really difficult as you're trying to find your mulch materials that are going to be not loaded to the gills with persistent herbicides. So another good one is going to be Toby Hemenway's book, Gaia's Garden, which is going to go into permaculture quite a bit. But it's not, I'm not sure if it's fair to say that it's for beginners. Because that's going to be something where it's not like saying, okay, so you want to grow raspberries. Here's first of all, you don't use seeds. You're gonna buy cane. And it, like, you know, and here's what you're gonna do, and here's like some of the common pitfalls of growing raspberry. And you're gonna grow carrots. And so here's kind of like, you know, some how-to on.
It's definitely, Guy's Garden is definitely more like a kind of like a designer's, like an introduction designer's book or manual
for a dominantly urban scale.
Yeah, and if you guys are interested, Toby Hemenway, his last project, the late great Toby Hemenway, did a course with us called Creating Gaia's Garden, and it's a wonderful course, and it's not available for sale anymore because Toby has recently passed away, unfortunately. But we do plan. We are working on the ability to re-release that to everybody that is. Because we get a lot of requests to join that course, but we can't right now. We're working on it.
All right, so here's a funny thing about Gaia's Garden. And so one time when we were not recording anything, Toby told me he never liked that title. That's a title that the publisher thought of, and he told the publisher, "No way, no, we're not doing that." And then when the books were printed and he got the first one, it said Gaia's Garden on it. And like, damn it, Beavis. So
did he say what the alternative title was going to be or wanted? He wanted?
I don't know. But that's part of the thing when you work with a publisher. They fuck with you like that.
I got I get when I mention Gaia's Garden to people that have never heard of it, I get pushback. I get people going, Gaia? That's like that hippy dippy stuff, right? Like, I get a lot of that. So
Toby's a scientist. So
yeah, it's definitely not on the like hippy dippy scale.
I've never. It's like there's a lot of the hippy dippy stuff that goes on. That's lovely.
Related. It's all related. Yeah. I mean,
and it's like that's fine. That's cool. I've never thought of Toby as being in that, like doing that. But maybe he does some of that. I just never noticed it before.
Well, I think, all right. So the way I look at permaculture, when people talk about the hippy dippies versus the other groups, I mean it's just a pair of shoes. Everybody wears them, and so there's things for everybody in it. I think Toby was a great mix of both parties. He could relate to everybody, and he was very scientific, and just he understood the world in ways that very few people do. And so great guy. Anyway, so Gaia's Garden. That's another great book to get into introduction wise. However, you should pair that with another book. Is kind of the gist I'm getting. Is you should pair Gaia's Garden with a how to actually grow plants kind of a book.
See, and we're back to Mel Bartholomew's Square Foot Gardening because he gives you a really clear idea of like how much space is this plant going to need, and then he's got some amazing charts that tell you like for your normal gardener, you will start a tomato indoors 6 weeks before your last frosting. And then you're going to transplant it on your last frosting. And then for other things, he's going to be talking about when you plant them outdoors, how frost tolerant they are. 2 weeks before your last frosting, 8 weeks before your last frosting. You know, these kinds of things. And then he's got stuff that kind of gives you an idea of like, when are you going to harvest them? And stuff like that. So for a brand new gardener, it's very helpful to get you started. I mean, I want to talk about like Sepp Holzer's permaculture. That's got a lot of powerful stuff into it, but I'm going to say, like, if you've got more than an acre, then Sepp Holzer's permaculture is going to be really useful in a lot of ways. But again, it's not going to say, here's what you need to know about carrots.
Yeah.
It's not going to have a carrot chapter. But Mel Bartholomew's stuff is going to tell you about carrots, because that's going to be the thing that you're going to be like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And so what do? Do I just like fling the packet at the ground and it'll sort itself out?
Yeah, the Square Foot Gardening was a book I looked at in the beginning. And I mean, I read it through and I just dabbled with it a little bit, but of course I'd been raised on growing stuff, and so I kind of had my own methods that were, you know, ingrained into me, and then I kind of followed. So I didn't follow the book exactly, but I definitely got some knowledge out of it, and it's definitely cookie cutter kind of stuff. It's like, this is what you do, and to have success, do this.
Right. Yeah. Mel, what he did before he wrote the book is that he managed a community garden. And so people would arrive and just be confused. Like, okay, I got a plot, and now what? And then he would help all these people over and over and over and over and over again.
And he's like, I just got to write a book.
Yeah. So he did.
Yeah.
And now he's helped millions of gardeners. So yay, Mel.
What I wish I would have gotten into or known about when I lived in the city, which I hated, was wicking beds. And I think wicking beds could be in great combination with square foot gardening. To build a wicking bed that's portable and has kind of a, you could have like a greenhouse box on top of it, so that you've got for those that don't know what a wicking bed is, I'll pull up a graphic as we talk about it. But the ability to have those, if I could have just had those plants in a box, something portable that I could throw on a trailer or in the U-Haul when I moved. And I think that a lot of people getting into this stuff, they're gonna, once you really get into it and you start growing your own food and eating healthier and thinking more, and you really start looking at your property like, man, I got to get another piece of property, or I need more land, or I need, or I want a different environment, because it becomes a big part of your life. And to have the ability to just pick that stuff up and move with you would be a great feeling, I think.
When I made, so in 1993, I grew a garden that failed. And then I became obsessed with being a better gardener, and I read all those books. So my soil was like half an inch deep on top of big rocks and gravel. And so I had a dump truck load of soil brought in, and I built raised beds. And then I just continued to majorly obsess over the garden. And then I was getting to the point of like basically the wicking bed stuff. And so one of the thoughts that I had, which I never implemented, but I think hugelkultur is far better than the wicking bed stuff that you're talking about, or the thought that I had that I never implemented. But the thought that I had was to take like those butter tubs. You could, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I would bury them facing up inside my raised beds. And I thought effectively it would act a lot like a wicking bed. But then I also kind of thought, I wonder what kind of weird science experiment gook would start to form inside of those that would be like not good.
Yeah, it's still standing water. Of course, it is buried. I mean, you get pockets of water like that in soil naturally, but usually that water, it's not very often. Usually the water is spread out. Yeah, our hugelkultur beds, let's see, 5 years ago we created them, and we created them at like 5.5 feet. They weren't quite 6 feet. They're down to like 2 feet now. They have time to rebuild. But I mean, but they've done great. You know, everything that grew in them grew really well. So, I kind of wonder how you could incorporate a wicking bed and hugelkultur together. Like because, all right, so when I'm living in the city, or when I was in like an apartment. And so there was a very small amount of area I had. And there was no dirt. It was Las Vegas, so it's all pavement there. And so that's why the wicking bed would have been so appealing to me, or one reason. So if we look at this wicking bed, I want to get everybody an idea of what a wicking bed is, just in case you haven't seen that. So essentially what it is, here's one that's, all right, so here's one that's just built. And this is like a nice big wicking bed, except it's got railroad ties, it looks like, which anyway, we won't get into that. But you'll see a pipe coming down here and then a pipe coming out at the end there. Okay, so here's the pipe coming down and here's the pipe coming out. And what you do is you put this PVC pipe into your bed, and it's got a bunch of holes on the bottom pipe, and you fill it full of gravel or sand or whatever, usually gravel. And then you have your soil on top, and then you plant into it. And what you do is you just once a day or once a week, depending on your climate and how fast evaporation happens and how hungry your plants are and all that, you just fill this thing full of water. And then once it starts spewing out the side there, you know it's full and it's good to go. So there's no like worrying about drowning plants or any of that. It's just a simple beginner's, like, you want to just dump some water in there, not worry about anything. Here's how you do it. And so what happens is the water fills up to the top of that gravel to where the chute comes out the side. And so any water that goes to that gravel line where the chute is, it just comes out. So the water isn't being directly pushed into the soil. And what happens is the soil and the plants basically wick like a oil wick. It wicks the water up into the soil and into the plants so that they can drink off of it. Now, I don't see any reason why, Paul, instead of pebbles, you couldn't use wood. And so I think what would happen is your roots would go further down and start digging into the wood and feeding off that wood. Although I don't know if there'd be any huge benefits to having wood versus gravel. What do you say? What do you think?
All right. First of all, I'm kind of looking at this and I'm thinking like, okay, where's the wick? Because you got to make sure that the water that's at the very bottom is able to wick its way up into the soil. And so
the soil is supposedly the wick. So what happens is the water goes into that gravel and it's right up on that soil line, and the soil's just absorbing that moisture up.
So I see where there's a non-woven weed mat, and then so there's something that's making it so that the water doesn't simply pass back and forth. It's a barrier of sorts. But then usually there's like a piece of fabric that goes down to the very bottom of the water area and goes up into the soil. And then that piece of fabric, once it gets wet, it will, the water will move up the fabric, and then it's in the soil, and then the soil will wick it out from the fabric. I'm not seeing that anywhere. I see like it's missing that component.
Well, okay, so when I built my wicking bed, I just put the fabric on top of the pebble, and all that fabric was doing was stopping the soil from getting too much into the pebbles. The wicking action itself, I assume, is happening just in the soil because the soil gets dry, and then when it's dry, the water is evaporating and going up and into the soil. I didn't use any cloth or anything as another form of wicking, or essentially what I saw it as is the soil was doing the wicking itself. There was no need for a cloth to do the wicking, and it did pretty good. I didn't have any problems with the bed.
I think that the soil can do the wicking, but the soil has to go down and be able to touch the water. Because like if the water level drops, and now you've only got an inch of water left, how is the water that's near the bottom able to get up to the soil?
Right. Yeah, that's where your the cloth would come into play, definitely.
Yeah.
But I just never let it happen. Like every day I just dump water into this thing until it came spewing out the side. So I mean it didn't.
All right.
It was just getting a lot of water.
So a couple of things. One is that where did you get those pebbles?
Oh yeah. Well, I just got them from there's a gravel bed.
Oh,
near us.
So you bought them and you moved them to your property.
Yeah.
And now, okay, so the drainage pipe, the overflow pipe, the PVC pipe, all that stuff, you got that off of the pipe tree that's growing in your yard?
Yeah, no.
Oh, you paid for that also. Is that stuff made out of wood?
What's that? The container?
Is the pipe made out of wood? No. The pipe.
It's oil.
Petroleum.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So, anyway, you kind of get where I'm getting at here. It's like, okay, that's some tech, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and granted, it's not a bad idea. It's something where I mean, you're up there because some people say hydroponics is not permaculture.
Mm-hmm.
If you want permaculture, then you need or aquaponics is not permaculture. If you want permaculture, then you need aquaculture, which is different. And so it's kind of like, okay, so this has got some tech in it, kind of like aquaponics does. And it's like, no, okay, yeah, it works. There's some novelty to it that you water less. So I'm looking at this, and it's kind of like it's showing pictures of the it's like showing arrows, like, oh, then the water got off its ass
and went uphill
and decided to crawl up the pebbles to the veggies.
Uh-huh.
Right. So I'm not sure how well water wicks up pebbles, but I would imagine not very well. All right. The thing is that with hugelkultur, then it's, you're in an area and you got some soil and you got like some logs and branches and stuff, and you're good to go.
Yeah, but for the backyard beginner, so an alternative system might be to, instead of pebbles, use just wood. And instead of PVC, maybe some kind of, to make Paul happy, would be some kind of clay pot kind of stuff.
There are things that are like that, where, and in fact, I can't remember the word for it, but there's a kind of a special clay pot shape where you basically bury the pot and there's just this little opening, and then you fill that with water, and then it's sitting in the soil, and then the water wicks out. Do you remember what it's called?
No, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm just going to Google it and see what I find here.
There they are. In fact, they're called irrigation pots.
Olas?
Olas, yeah. So, all right.
Okay, so this guy is dumping water into this clay pot. And
he's a Sri Lankan villager.
and so what's happening is the water is soaking through the clay.
Yeah.
And then into the soil.
Yeah.
Which is different than what okay, so anyway, at any rate, if you could make something like that, a clay tube that had the same purpose as the PVC, I could definitely see it being more difficult and more time consuming than just buying some PVC.
Well, okay, look at all the work that went into building the box, lining the box with your visqueen, putting in your pipes and your pea gravel, doing all of that stuff. And I'll give you, it is a novel idea. And at the same time, the thing that I'm suggesting is where you're going to just bury wood. Now, you're saying that after, did you say 6 years' time?
5 years.
5 years? Okay, so after 5 years, your hugelkultur bed has shrunk significantly.
Mm-hmm. It's basically the wood is decomposed a great deal. There's still a little bit in there, but it's been used. And now it's part of the soil, which is awesome.
Now, when you did it, how big was the wood that you put in it?
Not very big. We used like that. Yeah, it wasn't like huge logs or anything like that.
Yeah,
there were a couple. There were some, but not. It was mostly the smaller stuff. So yeah, you would expect that would break down quicker.
And then, of course, as all your stuff grows, and it's going to give off all kinds of leaves and stuff like that, and it's going to make a thick mulch layer on the top. The thick mulch layer will be adding to the organic matter of the soil as the wood is breaking down. So, yeah. And so a lot of times it doesn't shrink all that much, but yours, it sounds like it shrunk significantly.
And I made sure that I didn't use green woods. I used old wood.
Okay, so that's already fairly rotted.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That's fine. But yeah, big logs is the best. But all right, setting all of that aside, we're looking at this thing that you're pointing at, and it's like you're still going out there and you're watering it, and you're putting water into it, and it's probably using the water a hell of a lot more efficiently than if you were doing a sprinkler system.
Yeah.
And it's probably still more efficient even than like a drip irrigation system.
Yeah.
But there was some construction involved. And so it's like, I would prefer to do hugelkultur and mulching than to do something like what you're talking about here.
Yeah, I would too. Now, the reason I'm bringing it up once again is for those backyard folks. And what I thought would be a great system had I still lived in the city, where I didn't have either I'm renting a property and I can't do a lot to the landscape, or I'm on concrete, things like that. I just thought it was a great idea, and if we could incorporate some kind of hugelkultur into it, or not really hugelkultur, but just having wood instead of pebbles, I think that might actually be a great idea. And if you wanted to take a step further, use clay pots instead of PVC. But the idea is, it wasn't like this, right? I wouldn't have it like that because that's not portable. But if you had it in containers, which again is petroleum based, you're probably using a rubber container or something, or what I would have used would be like a horse trough that you get at a feeding store. And so there's, you're still using petroleum. It's not the best you could do by far. But it might be a great system you could use in that situation, which a lot of people are in those urban spots where they're renting or, they're just getting into it. I think it's a great system to get started with.
Okay, I want to drop one more big steamer on your great system.
Do it. Okay,
all right.
Give me the big steamy pile.
And that is that a lot of the stuff we're growing has tap roots, and some of the stuff doesn't have tap roots, but it has very deep roots. It likes to shoot roots way down, and you can only go down so far before you hit that pebble layer.
Yeah.
And it's like, this doesn't quite work. So
you're probably going to be growing annuals in this, unfortunately. And the other thing is that once that wood does rot, and you're having a container kind of garden thing, and you want to continue this kind of wicking bed style, you're going to end up having to dig up soil and adding more wood, which would be a big whole pain in the butt.
So all I'm saying is that in a permaculture system, you're going to be planting a lot of trees, and they're going to have roots that are deeper than what this bed will allow. And so, and I like the idea that rather than moving your garden with you and involving a lot of plastic, I would much rather see people do something that's like, if you do happen to move, you're going to leave it behind and you're going to start over.
Yeah.
And, you know, hopefully the new people won't rip it all out. You know, that they'll be like, this is awesome.
Yeah, hopefully you're leaving when there's a bunch of fruit happening and, you know, the plants are producing. Because then they're going to be like, oh, peppers, and I mean, they're awesome. This is food here. Let's keep this going, not rip it out. But people are weird. Who knows? Okay, so, go ahead.
The whole thing about beginners is so different. And I mean, if you think about when you first start to raise chickens, then what people are going to do is they're going to get something that looks like a coop, and they're going to do coop and run. They're not going to read any books. They're not going to read any articles. They're not going to read anything. They're going to go to the store and look and see what they need to buy in order to do this. And it's only when they start building up a lot of experience and things happen, then they start reading and then choosing an alternate approach. I kind of feel like beginners are gonna do something where they are putting stuff. They're just gonna try things, and it's like maybe it won't work out, maybe it will, and it's like, okay, well, what advice do you want to give to somebody that's like that? And it's like, any advice that they're going to actually take it's kind of like it has to fit onto a bumper sticker, really, because, you know, they're looking for a little taste. They're not looking for the whole thing. And I kind of feel like a lot of permaculture is about, you do the gardening thing and then you do more, and you get more and more into it, and then you're reading more and more, and you do more and more. And when you go far enough down this road, one of the places you end up at is permaculture.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's opening up a whole new area of gardening. And basically it's like, I kind of am coming more and more, and this has been like the last couple of years, like the natural building part of permaculture is kind of like, I want to garden me up a house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how natural building fits into permaculture. You're so bonkers about gardening. You've gone so far down this path that you're using gardening to solve everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I garden myself up some electricity? And it's like, some solar panels. And how do I garden myself up? You know, whatever. I need more fertilizer for my garden. What do I do now? It's like, the composting toilet.
Yeah.
It's like, garden.
You go crazy and do wafatis.
Yeah,
go all out.
So it's all about, how do I garden more? How do I garden myself some eggs? How do I garden myself some pork chops? You know, how do I garden myself some fish? How do I garden up everything? How can I grow things in my garden that taste better than anything I could buy at the store? That's not so tough to do. How do I garden myself some things so that I know that it's of higher quality than anything I could buy in the store? Turns out that's not so hard to do either.
I think a lot of people just getting started are the people that succeed or get further down into this realm. Those are the people that are more stubborn, or, you know, what they've done is they've said, okay, I want to grow something. I want fresh basil or something, you know, beginning simple, easy. And so they do it. And then they run into some kind of issue, or where they want to increase productivity, or things are dying, and then they start researching. And that's when they get into like the books or get into the blog posts and things like that to understand how they can do better. And then and then from there, they are continuing down the path and getting into the permaculture stuff. That's when they start getting into the forums, getting into the Permies, things like that. Because there's a lot of people that are growing their basil and it sucks, and they're Google searching and they find some on Permies. And then they're on Permies and they're like, what is all of this? And then they're down the rabbit hole, and it's all, before they know it, they're buying 20-acre properties or better and building wafatis and all kinds of stuff.
I heard from Jocelyn the other day. She was telling me about a friend of hers, who apparently stopped coming out to Permies, and so Jocelyn was, why? And the woman said something like, I was spending like all of my life there. It was like all day, every day, and it's like there's no end in sight.
Oh, it's such a fun community.
And
No, there isn't an end in sight.
And so I was neglecting my family. I was neglecting my job. I was neglecting all the other things in my life. And so she said she finally had to make a commitment to herself to not go for like 6 months.
Put the needle down.
At all. And I kind of felt good about that, actually. It was not addicting.
Yeah.
Then I hear people are like, trying to get off of Facebook, like they're addicted to Facebook, and I kind of feel like that's easy. I mean, there's like nothing there.
Well, for people like us, Permies is that same kind of thing. It's the Facebook for smart people.
Okay, I like that explanation. That sounds good. I just feel like I go out to Facebook, and it's like, if you scroll through the thing long enough, it's like 10% of it is interesting, but most of it is advertising, or it's an advertising for shit I don't care about, or it's just banal crap. And
you really got to dig into it. And so, yes, if you're looking at like your stream on Facebook, by the way, I did not mean to imply that all people are stupid on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I don't think I'm that stupid.
You totally did.
But
now.
if you get into like there's specific groups, okay? So there's groups on Facebook, and those groups, if you find good ones, they do things. They have moderators. They don't allow advertising. Things like that, and they keep a discussion going, much like what you would find on Permies. And so my thought is, I could just go to Permies for that. But there are specific groups that are very good. Like that's what I like about Facebook, is I like the groups. I like having groups, and I like joining groups that are good and weeding through the groups, because I can just leave a group and never hear from it again, kind of a thing.
Jack said something to me once, because I think I posted to Facebook, and it's like, I never understood Facebook. I just don't find the appeal. And then Jack said something like, saying you don't want to use Facebook is like saying you don't want to use a telephone.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be in business, you gotta kind of have a phone.
Yeah.
You gotta do that. And I kind of thought like, actually, I think I could do pretty good without a phone these days. Like, I don't even know why they call that. Where is mine? Why do they call this thing a phone? It's like
it's a computer nowadays.
Really, it's like the thing I use to check the internet.
Yeah, and a lot of people aren't even using them for the actual phone function anymore. It's all internet data stuff. Even if they are, that's like voice over IP. They're doing things like they're getting on this show on their phone. Some people are at home or wherever on their phone watching us right now.
So the little bit of stuff between Facebook and Permies is that, like, if you go and you write something profound on Facebook, and then that current audience doesn't really notice it for some reason, then it's gone.
Yeah. Like, unless you're specifically searching for it. Yeah.
Is there a way to search for stuff on Facebook?
Yeah, you go to it, like when you're in a group, you can search just in that group. Okay. However, what the problem is that a lot of times, or what I found, is that you can't search, like if I join a group, I can't search older stuff. It's like only letting me search until the point of when I joined. Well, which is not the case on Permies. I can go there and search forever. Anything that's ever been posted on Permies.
And the discussions are perennial. Like,
you
find a thread about black locust that's 8 years old, and it's like the information there is still relevant today. And it's much high. There's a much higher likelihood that when I post on Permies, Kim Kardashian isn't going to reply. There's someone like that. The trolls, you're not going to get a bunch of troll people replying to it and whatever. Right. Because I got an email like 3 days ago, and it said, this guy is talking about you on Facebook. And I'm like, yay. So I click on it. It takes me to Facebook, and there's this discussion. And I can't remember what the topic even was, but I think it was about soils. And so then there was a guy that was saying, well, Paul Wheaton or something. And then there's somebody who replied, and the person who replied was like, well, I don't know who the fuck Paul Wheaton is. And then the next reply is, okay, like I looked him up. That fucker is too fat.
Yeah, there's a troll.
And so then, he's just a guy who's like, whatever. And then so it goes on, and they're trying to talk about soil and how to have good soil and why do you care about good soil. And so then this guy's response to like, you can't, so anyway, so I saw this, and so I replied, and replied and said to the first guy, I said, I think that you shouldn't take advice from somebody who's trying to give you advice, and the foundation of their argument is that guy's too fat, therefore you shouldn't follow that advice about soil. So it's like basically how fat I am influences his choices and how to manage soil. So and it's like, no, I give it to you, man. I'm a fat bastard. No problem. So, but at the same time, it's kind of like, really? That's the thing. It's like, oh, you can't believe what this guy says because he's fat. So if that's your deciding criteria on how to make good soil, is how fat some other guy is. It's like, how do you follow that advice? So
yeah,
guy is a dumb fuck. And so, but on Permies, of course, yeah, that kind of statement, no matter who your partner point out, you can't believe what Josiah Wallingford says because he's ugly or whatever.
Oh, thanks.
Because he wears a brown hat and a green shirt. You can't believe what people say when they wear a brown hat and a green shirt. But that kind of stuff gets removed off of Permies. Whether it's trolling or corporate trolls or whatever. Yeah, there's just gobs of that stuff that we just remove.
Yeah. Great moderators make a great community. Yeah, and okay, so on the fat thing, I talked to this girl. She was big into fitness, right? So she used to be fat, and she got big into fitness, and she said the same kind of thing. I don't listen to people that are fat.
Okay.
Her reasoning was that she feels like if you're fat, you don't care enough about your body or yourself, so why should I care about anything you say or do? And she used to be fat, and that's how she felt about herself, I'm guessing. And so that's kind of where... But I think there are people out there that have that mentality. I think there's quite a bit of people out there that have that mentality.
Oh, yeah. I've had, I don't know how many people out of my own audience that were kind of like, you need to stop being so fucking fat. And it's like, I just don't give a shit anymore about that kind of thing. In fact, I even kind of think that when we really get our soils just really great here, that, and we're, and I get to the point that 90% of the food that I'm eating is coming off of this land. I'm curious. Am I going to just naturally lose weight?
You probably will. I think what will happen is and I could say this for anybody going down this route, eating healthy food from healthy soils, especially your own food. If you have fat, because you're eating a lot of really good foods, you're just making a lot of fatty good foods, your fat is a lot different than the fat of someone that's eating Doritos. It's a different kind of fat. It's a much healthier fat, and it's a good fat.
So, I don't know. When I was younger, then of course being fit was a big deal. But now I'm older, and I've got other things I'm worried about. I've got other things that I spend my time thinking about, and I've dieted before. I just don't want to fuck with it anymore. And on top of that, when I was a kid, I had some times when I had a hard time finding food, and it was not a good thing.
Don't want to have that again. Yeah.
I don't really like the idea. I don't like being hungry. I just don't. So
yeah.
We'll see how it pans out when I'm eating, more food from what I'm growing here.
Me personally, I prefer the Paleo Diet. I don't like starches and sugars. Now, wait, I should say that again. I love starches and sugars, but I try to avoid them, and especially if it's processed stuff. That's what I really want to ignore or avoid. I can understand like eating pasta. Oh, I love pasta. And if that pasta is growing in good soils and like made in a good way, I'm much happier eating that than I would any kind of store-bought regular pasta. But what would ultimately be healthier for me is if I wasn't eating pasta. But I love pasta. But anyway, paleo, if you guys haven't heard about it, that's a great diet if you want to be healthy and lose all the starches. There's alternatives to things that you love, but man, it's hard to find a good substitute for pie, right, Paul?
That's damn right. Damn right. Huckleberry pie. We live in Huckleberry country.
Oh man, I love Huckleberry season.
Yeah.
You can get paid a lot of money for picking huckleberries. Holy crap!
Yeah.
You got to fight some bears, but
Well, and I've heard some people say that they won't eat huckleberries because it's like you're stealing the bear's food. And we've got a huckleberry patch near here, and a lot of huckleberries just get dried up and they fall on the ground and nothing touches them, and then the bears are hibernating. So it's kind of like you had your chance. So it seems like if you go up there and you harvest, 40 gallons of huckleberries, because it's like hundreds of acres of huckleberries. And you go, it's like no one's going to know.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
Bears.
If you're really competing with the bear for food, the bear's going to win.
Yeah. They'll get there first. Yeah.
Lisa says, I'm doing a lot of work in an urban yard knowing I will be leaving it behind, but I am gaining a lot of knowledge and experience in the process. Good trade, if you ask me. And that goes back to right what you were saying. Just do it, man.
Yeah.
Brian says, same as Lisa here. That's awesome, guys. All right, it has been an hour and 15 minutes. I've been trying to cut this to an hour.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap it up, guys. I hope you join us next week, and be sure to leave your comments and questions. You can email me or Paul. My email is josiah@permeethos.com. If you will have topics you want us to discuss and research and stuff for next week's episode, I'm sure Paul would love your emails as well. It's been great, guys.
Forums right about my Patreon page, which you can only get to if you support my Patreon thing.
Yeah, you guys can only the live show. You guys, we have participants. There's people watching live, and then there's participants. The participants on the show right now are the ones that are talking to us and leaving us questions, things like that. You can only do that. You can only get access to this if you are either a Permeethos customer, you've purchased courses with us, or you're a Patreon with Paul, or part of Paul's Patreon peeps.
Right. And I created the forums because I was getting so overwhelmed with emails. Which, by the way, I looked it up today, and apparently I started the forums on April Fool's Day of 2005.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're 12 years old at Permies.
And you did Code Ranch before then, right? And still do it.
Right. Yeah, and that one I think is like 18 years old.
Yeah, that's awesome. The long legacy of Paul Wheaton. Been around, man.
I'm old and shit.
You're still young at heart. All right. Love you guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't email Paul. You email me.
Bye.
Bye.